All compliments gratefully accepted. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, before I answer this question, I would remind the House that this is the final Northern Ireland questions before the Assembly election on the 2nd of March. These are critical elections for the future of Northern Ireland, and I would urge the parties to conduct the campaign in a manner which allows for the speediest return to partnership government. Only power-shoving government will deliver the political stability which the vast majority of people in Northern Ireland want to see, and which remains the priority for this government to secure. With permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 1 and 3 together. As my right honourable friend the Prime Minister made clear, maintaining the common travel area is one of the government's 12 priorities in negotiating exit from the EU. It is the government's intention to deliver a practical solution that allows the maintenance of the common travel area while protecting the integrity of the UK's immigration system.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A hard border would be disastrous for communities that live along that border, especially in economic terms. What assurances can the Secretary of State offer that the common travel area will be top of the agenda in any Brexit negotiations? Will it be more important than restricting the freedom of movement elsewhere in the UK, for instance? Will ministers assure that the common travel area is part of any trade deal done with the European Union?
Well, I've already indicated the priority that is given to securing the common travel area. This is a very strong commitment that this government has given, and a point that I've underlined on many occasions before. It is also a shared intent, both with ourselves, the Irish Government, and also the Northern Ireland Executive. And therefore, it is with that approach, and I think that shared will, that we do look to the negotiations ahead and getting the common travel area secured, and also seeing that frictionless border that is equally so important to the politics and life.
Will the common travel area be the UK's only area of free travel with the EU, or will it be free trade and free travel?
Well, as I've said, the priority as set out in the 12 points that the Prime Minister made in her speech was securing the common travel area. That has served us over so many years, dating back to the 1920s. We believe that it is really important that we seek to attain that, as well as also getting that frictionless trade in goods as well, which also is a key priority in addition.
Mr. Kevin Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Government's determination to maintain the common travel area across our islands. Would the Secretary of State also agree that the friendly relations it symbolises could only be strengthened by the Republic joining the Commonwealth as an associate member, as suggested by Senator Frank Fihan during his visit to this House yesterday?
Well, obviously, that is a matter for the Irish Government. But I think the point that he makes about strong, friendly relationships between ourselves and the Irish Government is well made. And it was with that intent, with that theme, that the Prime Minister met the Taoiseach earlier this week and really, I think, underlined the importance of continuing to work together to get the best outcome for Northern Ireland and the best outcome for the island of Ireland.
Ollie Elphick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would my right honourable friend agree that while this government is committed to free movement of people and goods across the whole of Ireland, it's also important that the European Union should do its bit to see Ireland right as well?
Well, I think the European Union and Member States do recognise the significance of Northern Ireland, recognise the significance of the politics on the island of Ireland, indeed the way in which we've seen investment, we've seen political engagement from within the European Union, how we will continue to underline that in the negotiations ahead, and why I remain positive that we can secure a good deal for Northern Ireland within the UK but outside of the EU.
Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given Ireland's immigration criteria and how different they are to the UK's, I don't quite understand how you're going to stop European Union citizens travelling through Ireland and onto the UK. Could you spell it out for us?
Well, I would say to the honourable gentleman that actually there is broad alignment of policy in relation to the Republic of Ireland and the UK. That has been part of the bedrocks of the common travel area and how that has existed over many years. Indeed, how we have sought to create new visa issues in relation to China that have allowed travel to Ireland and also to the United Kingdom, and how cooperation between ourselves and the Irish Government is very good.
Mr. Alan Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following on from that, post-Brexit, common travel area, no hard border. A Polish family moves to Ireland. Will they have free movement into Northern Ireland? And if not, how does that square with Ireland being a member of the European Union?
Well, as I've indicated to the House this morning, we are committed to securing the common travel area. And yes, we are also committed to dealing with issues of immigration, which I think were very much at the forefront of the campaign. And we will be coming forward, as the Home Office is working in relation to detail of a new immigration policy, and will, I'm sure, be a matter of debate in this House in the future.
Sammy Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government has rightly sought to identify the issues that affect different regions and different sectors of the economy and to build those into their negotiating position. Regardless of the issue, however, of the common travel area, can the Secretary of State give us an assurance that all parts of the United Kingdom will leave the EU on an equal basis and that no special arrangements or different conditions or special circumstances will be afforded to Northern Ireland that would weaken our position within the United Kingdom and treat us differently than other parts of the United Kingdom?
We are very clear as a government of the strength of the Union, how that matters to all of us. And therefore, the approach that we take is based on getting the best possible deal for all parts of the United Kingdom. Yes, there will be some specific factors in Northern Ireland that the honourable gentleman is well aware of. We've talked about the border. There are other issues as well. But it is with that intent, it is with that focus, and therefore concepts of special status, I think, is the wrong approach. It's rather looking at special factors, special circumstances, and dealing with them effectively.
Alistair MacDonald.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Could I agree with the Secretary of State in that we are very impressed with the strength of the Union too. That's the European Union. And, Mr. Speaker, there appears to be a very significant gap beyond the common travel area. There seems to be a gap between the wishful thinking and the reality of movement of goods. Could the Secretary of State tell us what assessment he has made of the effect of an exit from the Customs Union would have on the movement of goods and services between Northern Ireland and the Republic?
As the honourable gentleman will have seen in the Prime Minister's speech, she underlined that clear desire that we have as a government in the negotiations ahead to get the best possible trading arrangements with the European Union, and therefore we are reflective as to how we do that, whether that is some form of membership of a customs union or a bespoke customs agreement. But the honourable gentleman should be very intent on our desire to get that deal and also to see a frictionless border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Danny Kinahan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. May I welcome the Secretary of State's comments about having an election that produces parties that want to work together, because that's exactly what we want to see. But when it comes to the common travel area, have we looked at the legal implications, not just within the other departments, but how it's respected by Europe itself? Does it really exist there, and do they see it as a law that stands in place?
The honourable gentleman may be interested to know that the ability for the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom to make arrangements in relation to the common travel area is something that has been recognised in previous EU agreements. And therefore, I think it is with that approach that we take to this in actually securing the common travel area and underlining the importance of it to our European partners and securing its future, which I'm positive that we can do.
Almost empty. Jeff Smith.
Number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The economy in Northern Ireland continues to grow. Since 2010, there are 54,000 more people in work, and over the year, the employment rate has increased and the claimant count is now fallen for the 9th consecutive month. This is committed to working with Northern Ireland parties to bring about political stability. This is key to bringing further growth and investment to Northern Ireland.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 33.4% of all exports from Northern Ireland go south across the border, and 54.7% go to the EU. Leaving the EU will affect Northern Ireland more than any other region in the UK. Now, the previous answer was pretty vague, so what specific steps will the Secretary of State take in order to ensure that those exports are protected in order to protect inward investment?
Well, the specifics about the mechanism are for the negotiation, but what we should understand is that Northern Ireland produce high-quality goods, has a high-skilled employment base, and it will be successful, and we will facilitate that.
Mr. Lawrence Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister agree with me that the news from Northern Ireland is seen and read and heard across the world. And isn't it important, therefore, that the institutions do get up and running again straight after the forthcoming elections to give confidence to potential investors right across the world that Northern Ireland is indeed a great place to invest?
Thank you. Can I thank you for the question? I know my right honourable friend is a very wise gentleman on issues of Northern Ireland and makes a massive contribution. He's right to say we can do much from Westminster, but it will be the parties in Northern Ireland that need to take responsibility, need to come together and guide the economic growth that is so needed in Northern Ireland.
Hilary Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Secretary of State noted, there is an Assembly election on just now to be followed by negotiations on ministerial responsibilities, all in uncertain times. Can the Minister offer any assurances austerity will not be the rock upon which peace founders? Will the funding for legacy issues be guaranteed in the new Assembly? And will funding for other policy imperatives be eased? Will he ensure the Assembly can function properly in financial terms? Hear, hear.
Well, this government is absolutely committed to make sure that we develop an economy that works for everybody, and that is everybody in the United Kingdom. And we have implemented or implementing an industrial strategy which has a massive part to play in Northern Ireland, and I welcome the consultation that's been launched in Northern Ireland as well. The economy in Northern Ireland is strong. There is a desire between the UK government and the Republic of Ireland to make sure we have a constructive and positive relationship in the future.
Mr. Robert Courts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My right honourable friend will be aware that the main parties in Northern Ireland have endorsed the devolution of corporation tax powers to the Assembly, which would have a transformative effect upon the economy of Northern Ireland. Does he agree with me that it would be a tragedy if the chance to do so were lost due to the lack of a functioning executive and Assembly?
Minister. The government believes that a reduced rate of corporation tax to 12.5% in Northern Ireland could have a significant benefit for jobs, investment and growth. I hope that we can return to the wider progress we want to make on this issue following an Assembly election and the formation of a new executive.
Mr. Nigel Dodds.
Speaker, does the Minister accept that with unemployment in Northern Ireland now at its lowest level since 2008, Northern Ireland having posted the highest increase of exports of any region of the United Kingdom last year, that the Executive was making real substantial progress in improving the economy of Northern Ireland in the previous 2 years?
Well, I recognise all those statistics, and I think it's really important that we actually do constantly reiterate the positive position that Northern Ireland's in. I want to see, members of this House want to see, the people of Northern Ireland want to see the Assembly come back together, offer that guidance and that leadership to make sure we grow that economy.
Nigel Dodds.
We in these benches certainly share that aspiration. We want to see devolution up and running. We want to see jobs and investment, and he will understand our frustration and the people of Northern Ireland's frustration and indeed anger that the good progress that we were making has been put in peril, jobs, investment, as a result of Sinn Féin's decision to collapse the Executive and cause an unnecessary election. Will he commit in the coming weeks and months to work with those of us in this House to ensure that people's jobs, investment into Northern Ireland is improved?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to get involved in the politics of Northern Ireland about why that fell down. What is important is the people of Northern Ireland want leadership from their politicians in Northern Ireland. And what I can promise the honourable gentleman, the right honourable gentleman, that both the Secretary of State and myself will do everything to make sure we have a strong Assembly which is offering leadership in Northern Ireland.
David Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start by asking the House to accept my leader's heartfelt apologies for his mistaken statement last week when he said that a member of the PSNI had been killed. I'm sure the House will agree with me that we all want to see the officer make good progress. We wish him and his family well. Mr. Speaker, there's no doubt that political instability worries businesses, but a much bigger day-to-day threat is the burden placed on business by the crushing cost of energy in Northern Ireland. Electricity generators are charging customers 58% more than the EU average, while pulling in gross profits of €900 million a year. Will the Secretary of State meet with the energy regulator urgently impress on him the need to rein in these fat cat profiteers?
Mr Speaker, we'll do everything we can to make sure there is a good economic link between the Republic of Ireland and the Northern Ireland and address this issue. The common economic connector is a really important part of that, and we will work together to actually resolve that issue.
Mr Stephen Gittins.
Question number 4, please, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, we are determined that Northern Ireland's voice will be heard. All of the devolved administrations will be fully engaged in the process of preparing to leave the European Union. We will continue to consult the devolved administrations, including through the Joint Ministerial Committee on EU negotiations.
Stephen Gittins.
Mr Speaker, membership of the single market is obviously of critical importance to Northern Ireland. Now, given the commitment to the common travel area, will the Minister tell us what blockages remain apart from political blockages to Scotland and Northern Ireland remaining part of the single market?
Well, Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister was, I think, very robust in the stance that she took on wanting to see the freest and the best possible trading arrangements with the European Union to allow UK companies to operate with and trade within the EU, and I hope that that is something that the honourable gentleman would support.
If the honourable lady for Bury St Edmunds does stand on this question, I will call her, but if she doesn't, I won't. Joe Churchill.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. From his broad discussions with businesses, does he agree that Northern Ireland remains a great place to do business and that we all must do all we can to ensure that this continues after we leave the EU?
I do absolutely agree. Northern Ireland is a great place to do business. There are some amazing companies, entrepreneurs, businesses. It's why we want to see Northern Ireland continuing to grow and to flourish, and seeing an executive in place at the earliest opportunity to help achieve that.
Law.
Mr Speaker, in his statement on the 17th of January this year, the Secretary of State said that he would, and I quote, continue to have engagements across the community with business, with the voluntary and community sector, and more broadly to ensure that we continue to listen to and reflect upon the views of people in Northern Ireland. Can he tell us what meetings he's had with communities in Northern Ireland since then, and what meetings he plans between now and the Assembly election?
No, we continue to have meetings of our community roundtable, community sector roundtable, and I met only last week representatives of the business community through my business advisory group. I am very clear on continuing to listen intently to views across Northern Ireland and to help inform our approach as we look to the negotiations with the EU ahead.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sinn Féin's decision to unilaterally collapse the Northern Ireland Executive means that they, of course, have excluded themselves from any discussions on Article 50. Can the Secretary of State continue to work closely with the Northern Ireland parties that attend this House, along with the Brexit Secretary, to ensure that our voice is heard deeply and fully in that important matter?
Well, the Joint Ministerial Committee did meet earlier this week in plenary session, and I was pleased to see representation on behalf of the Northern Ireland Executive. We want to see that continuing, and obviously in this House I will continue to listen to views of honourable and right honourable members to ensure that we are reflecting carefully on Northern Ireland's voice ahead.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Although the foul mephitic fug of Brexit has cast the land into shadow, life must go on. And further to the Secretary of State's comments, he will accept that the JMC is currently the main body for consultation with the devolved institutions. Yet, this body has no authority, no standing orders, no fixed rules. Will the Secretary of State commit to formalising the role of the JMC, the crucial body during the current negotiations in these dark days?
Well, I say to the honourable gentleman that the Joint Ministerial Committee operates between each of the different nations of the UK, how that regulates those arrangements, and how we do see it as playing an important role, not just now, but into the future as well, with the European negotiations part of that, seeking to ensure that voice is heard loud and clear of devolved administrations to get the best arrangements for all parts of the UK.
Tom Tugendhat.
Question 5, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, I know the whole House will join me in condemning the despicable shooting of a police officer in North Belfast on Sunday the 22nd of January. Our thoughts are with the injured officer who remains in hospital, and also with his family and colleagues. I and my officials have regular discussions with the Justice Minister, the Chief Constable and partners as we work to keep the people of Northern Ireland safe and secure.
My right honourable friend will have the support of the whole House, I know, when he speaks so warmly of the police officer who was so brutally attacked only recently. And I know that he is working very closely with the intelligence services, the military and the police to ensure security in the region. Could he tell me a little bit more, please, about what he is doing to take forward the security of an important part of the United Kingdom?
I commend the work of the Police Service of Northern Ireland and the Security Service and other agencies to keep Northern Ireland safe. There is a severe level of terrorist threat in Northern Ireland, as this appalling incident underlines. I will continue to work with all partners to secure that safe and secure Northern Ireland we want to see, and spoke to the Chief Constable on this issue only this morning.
Can I just gently remind the House that we are... Order! We are discussing the security situation in Northern Ireland, a matter of enormous importance and gravity, and perhaps we can respond accordingly. Mr Vernon Coker.
Can I join with the Secretary of State in utterly condemning the disgraceful, what was a terrorist attack on a police officer in Northern Ireland? In that light, can the Secretary of State tell me and tell the House what response he will make to the Chief Constable's comments in the Belfast Telegraph this morning, where he talked about the need to try to ensure that more people from the community had the confidence to come forward to speak to the police and the security services about these matters?
I agree entirely with a number of the points that the Right Honourable Gentleman has made. This was an utterly despicable act and an attack on the whole community, and it should be seen as such. The Chief Constable has made those points about people feeling confident in coming forward. There is an ongoing investigation that is very live. We are looking through our approach in confronting paramilitarism to seeing that people do have confidence to come forward to give evidence, and that is clearly work that needs to continue.
What assessment has my right honourable friend made of the current security situation in Northern Ireland?
Well, my honourable friend will wish to know that we have a severe level of threat in Northern Ireland from terrorism. The appalling attack that we saw on a young, brave police officer only in the last fortnight, I think underlines the nature of that attack and how there are those who are there who would wish to commit acts of violence against the police, members of our armed forces and also prison officers, and how we must be vigilant against that threat.
Does the member for South Down wish to contribute on this question? No? Well, we might not get there. We'll see. Mark Durkan.
Can I join in the condemnation of the deplorable attack on the police officer? Can I also use this occasion to pay quick tribute to my constituent, opponent and now fellow former Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness for the calibre and tenure of his service in our democratic institutions, and wish him well in his personal battle. In terms of the question about meeting executive ministers, does the Secretary of State recognise that he would be meeting ministers who have taken a pledge to uphold the rule of law, based as it is on the fundamental principles of fairness, impartiality and democratic accountability, including support for policing in the courts? Will he meet that same benchmark and remove the comments he's previously made?
Secretary of State.
I'm very clear on upholding the rule of law and seeing that we support our agencies which have that independence to be able to pursue evidence where they see it. Indeed, the very live investigation that is ongoing to get to the bottom and hold those to account for this appalling act against this brave PSNI officer who was doing his duty, upholding the law and protecting the community.
Isn't the job faced by the police in Northern Ireland, keeping people safe, made harder by the tendencies of the Northern Ireland courts to let terrorists out on bail, sometimes even only weeks after an original arrest has taken place?
I think that there are important issues that needs to be examined and addressed in relation to the criminal justice system. Bail is one part of that, but also sentencing and also the time it takes for cases to proceed, and that is something we will continue to work with the executive to see that progress can be made.
Lady Herman.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Indeed.
Thank you. In dealing with
the honourable lady can scarcely be heard by anybody, let alone the Minister. Lady Herman, who heard.
Thank you. It's very kind of you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very grateful indeed. In dealing with the security situation in Northern Ireland, the Secretary of State will recognise how important it is that the Northern Ireland Office sends out a very clear message that the rule of law prevails in Northern Ireland. So would he kindly take this opportunity to put on the record his full confidence in the independence and integrity of the Lord Chief Justice Sir Declan Morgan and indeed the DPP?
I am very happy to do so in very clear and unequivocal terms. It is essential that we uphold the rule of law without fear or favour, and I absolutely support the work of the police, of all of those responsible for taking that forward and seeing that those who are committing the acts that we've discussed this morning are held to account and brought to justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Monday I met a woman whose mother was killed 46 years ago, who asked me to ask the Secretary of State if he understood that there can be no real peace unless we deal with the past. To that end, and as a start, can I ask him, will he commit to raising with the Irish Government the need to ensure the fullest possible public access to the papers relating to the Kingsmill murders, and also deliver an effective route by which the families of those who lost loved ones at Ballymurphy can reach some form of closure?
Well, I thank the right honourable gentleman, and the message that he gives of the raw pain and emotion that continues to be felt by so many of those affected by the Troubles is one that I equally recognise and see. It is important that we are able to make progress in relation to the Stormont House legacy bodies, and we will continue to make representations to the Irish Government over a range of issues, and I note the specific point that he has raised with me this morning.
Order. Questions to the